Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, whenever it is that you hear this. A lot of us are called radical because we want to protect our freedoms, protect our God given rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I call it radical when you want to take those things away. Now, right now, our side is not fighting against the radical leftist communist agenda. Give an example. Of course, Trump will more likely be indicted for stuff in Georgia where they claim that he was, saying, I need 12,000. You find me 12,000 more votes. I'll tell you something, guys. Trump team, what are you all doing? You sure as hell are not leading the narrative. You're responding to their bullshit. That never works out well. Here's what you do. And Trump mentioned this in a phone call. I've heard the entire phone call. And we've all seen it. Well, most of us, the Democrats haven't, because it's not shown on their networks. Where at the Fulton County Center, when they cleared everybody out because of a flood, which was a non-existent flood, and all the Republican vote counters and watchers were sent home. I think it was 3 or 4 Democrat ladies. They stayed. It's all on video. And they go back into the counting room, and there was this long table that had like a black skirt around it, so you could see what was under it. But they knew what was under there, that table. Several boxes of ballots. Biden ballots. Now, remember, these things are not supposed to be counted without the opposing side observing. So they pull these ballots out. They count them, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times. 4 times they counted the same stack of ballots. It's all on tape. That was estimated to be 36,000 votes. Biden votes. Trump lost by 12,300 or 400 votes. This is what Trump was saying. Those votes alone cost him Georgia. Those illegally counted votes that should have never been counted. Those ladies doing that should have been arrested immediately. Nope. Not only were they not arrested for violating election law, because law state you have to have your observers there. And of course, we all know you don't count the same damn ballots multiple times. They did this. And people say I'm radical for bringing this up. No, I'm not. And why the Trump team hasn't gone, he should be running this 24/7 around the country on advertisements. Folks, this is what happened. You can't come after him for showing publicly available closed circuit TV of the public counting of these votes. These people committed crimes, committed election fraud. Those votes alone, like he was saying, that cost him Georgia. And those votes should not have been counted. Raffensperger was in on this. He knew that just those alone, we're not even talking the other fraud that occurred in Georgia, like several thousand people who had moved either out of state or out of their previous precinct, voting at their former precinct. You can't do that. You have to register when you move, even within the same state or the same county, if you're in a different precinct. You have to register again, folks. People didn't do it. Several thousand people out of state voting. You don't even need to count all those. Trump lost by less than 13,000 votes. 36,000 votes was the estimate that was counted illegally in that video. That's what the Trump team needs to be putting out there right now. This is what happened. There's where you lost. There's where Trump lost Georgia right there. And folks, Everybody on that phone call knew it. Trump was the only one, his people, the only ones who gave a damn. The officials of the state of Georgia, the Secretary of State, the governor, all the rest of them, they did not care. They could have easily said, yep, you're right. We see this, and we're deducting those vote totals from Biden, and we have put warrants out for the arrest of these individuals who did this. And you're right, you did win Georgia. Now, see, half the people more in this country, they don't know this because they're Democrats. Their media doesn't tell them this. And they won't listen to folks like me because they'll say, cite your sources. And I cite my sources and go, oh, well, that's not a credible source. Every Democrat does this across the country, all of them. Then you'll say, well, why isn't it a credible source? Well, because it isn't one of theirs. That's the game they play all the time. So don't even waste your time trying to explain this to Democrats, because it is a waste of time. What our side needs to do is to start carrying the narrative, publicize all this stuff, show this. President Trump team, maybe one of your PACs, I don't care who, run this video. Run it all over across this country. Run it in Georgia. 100 freaking damn times a day on multiple outlets. So the people on the jury pool will understand that the state of Georgia are the ones who committed the crime against President Trump by allowing illegally counted votes to be counted, which those votes alone gave Joe Biden a win. Now, why would the Georgia election officials, why would they want to give Joe Biden a win? You got to ask yourself that. We know what they were doing. They let these votes that were illegal counted 4 times. Let's say they were right. Let's say they were legal the first. No, none of it was illegal. I'm not even going to go there because they were kept under a table with the skirt around it so nobody could see it. They were taken out once the Republican observers were sent home. None of that was legal. None of it. Roethlisberger knew it. So the Trump team needs to get Roethlisberger and say, why did you allow these votes to be counted? You knew these votes were illegal, yet you allowed them to stand and allowed these to count to Joe Biden, which gave him the state of Georgia. Why did you commit this crime? Who put you up to it? You need to be checking his bank accounts to see if he got some money paid to him after that happened. Well, we won't do that. We got to reply to their bullshit. You call them out on their bullshit and I say, hey, come over here. Here's what you all did. You lied. You allowed crimes to be committed. You allowed Joe Biden to take this state, which helped him to win the presidency. The state of Georgia election officials are guilty of election fraud, of election interference by allowing that to happen. Trump team, where's your lawsuits against them? I haven't heard of any. Georgia Secretary of State's office cannot defend that action. No way can they defend that action. Why are you not hitting them hard on this? You don't listen to me. I have no voice. But it's just common sense, people. You know what the Secretary of State's office did in Georgia. And now you're going to be indicted, arrested for attempting to steal Georgia. You didn't attempt to steal Georgia. The Secretary of State of Georgia stole Georgia for Biden. You were just merely trying to get votes that were illegally counted not to be counted. It is the Secretary of State's office of Georgia that committed the crimes. Why haven't you sued them? They can't deny it, guys. It's all on tape. What are you afraid of? You afraid of a win? You afraid they're going to come after you more? Hey, listen, guys, it's because you sit back and you take it is why they continue to come after you. All of it. It's like on the document thing. All right, here's how you handle this. First of all, it is not a criminal offense. Secondly, we already have precedent with the Sox case with Clinton. The last I knew, Obama had thousands of boxes of so-called classified information. Now, remember, you can classify anything. You can classify your freaking lunch menu for the damn day and put top secret on it. Most people are too stupid. They don't know this. Well, it's top secret. It's classified. It must be important. No. Overwhelming majority of this stuff isn't. It's stuff that most people could get online. Literally, you could top secret, you can classify your lunch menu, your daily schedule, your golf score, for the love of God, can be classified. Folks don't know this. You all don't communicate that to the people. You all let them think that, well, classified information, oh my God, that's nuclear codes, which I'm sure are scrambled on a regular basis. You all don't know that the people think that classified information is top secret things that, oh my God, if it gets out, we're all dead. You don't communicate that with the people. I don't know why. If you're assuming the people know these things, stop it. Our people aren't half as bright as what you give them credit for. Because if they were, we would never have been in this mess. So let's Obama's got thousands. Last I heard, he had a warehouse in South Chicago, and maybe another place or two, with boxes stored. He got a hold of the archivists. It says, hey, they're here. You can have them. It was going to cost millions of dollars for whatever reason to transport them to the archives. Then you go after Biden. As a vice president, he had no authority to take classified documents, or as a senator. He did both. Wow. Never was to have them in his possession ever. And he did. Not only did he have them in his possession, he had thousands of documents at the Penn Biden Center, which was funded by the Chinese Communist Party. His good buddies in Beijing had access to that. At a place in D.C., at some stupid place. Of course, in his garage, unsecured, of course. And keep in mind, he was never legally entitled to have them ever. Why isn't he under arrest? I mean, that's a chargeable crime because he was never, as a vice president or a senator, allowed to have classified information ever. Trump was allowed to have it, not Biden. So again, Trump team, why aren't you going after Biden for this? How come you don't have somebody going after him in a legal sense? You know, this affects all of us citizens. So maybe you should get a few citizens to sign up for a class action lawsuit against Biden. We have standing because information that he had no legal right to ever possess has been unsecured and available for Chinese communist spies to access. Has been unsecure in his garage where his son would have his buddies over. How do we know that Hunter didn't take a lot of pictures of those classified documents that were unsecure in the garage and send them to his friends in China? We don't. In fact, I'd say it's a real probability. Why aren't we asking those questions? Why aren't we demanding that Joe Biden be arrested for clearly violating the law? He was never entitled to have one single classified document in his possession ever. Trump was. Why aren't we on Obama for not returning his? Pretty much every president, there's a little war going back and forth between himself and the archivist. Because as far as the archivist is concerned, everything belongs to them. Well, that's just not true. And the presidents, when they go, hey, that's mine, I'm going to keep it. And there was negotiations going on. That's normal. He'd already sent a bunch of stuff back. But keep in mind, Trump's documents were under lock and key with Secret Service security. Wow. Biden, who never had a legal right to possess these documents, had no such security. None. Zero. So again, Trump people, why aren't you nailing and going after him? There's got to be a way without going through DOJ to file lawsuits against Biden personally. Y'all think about that? Probably you haven't. I'm sure there's a few tricks that we could do in that regard. Also, you need to be filing suits, actions against Secretary of State in Georgia for his willfully allowing votes that were illegally counted to be counted. I heard that whole conversation. It was about 45 minutes or so long. And nothing anybody on the Trump team even indicated. Trump basically was saying, would you please not count these? These votes weren't legal. And then Biden loses Georgia. It's not even close then. Nope, we're not going to do that. So, Secretary of State in Georgia, why were you a willing participant in allowing the Biden campaign to win Georgia? What was in it for you? The other thing, Trump team, I keep telling you this, people you know that I know, I tell them, and apparently they don't tell you. There is one day for Election Day, folks. 2 USC Section 7, 1845. Congress has the authority constitutionally granted to them to set a date for when federal elections are to be held. None of you know that. Don't know why. So the 2020 and 2022 federal elections were held in violation of federal law. I believe there's a 5-year statute of limitations on that. Now, if y'all were smart, well, if you were, you would know these things. You would go into federal court tomorrow and file a lawsuit against every one of these states in federal courts who voted illegally in 2020. You should do that. It's election day, not weeks, not months, period. Mail-in ballots aren't legal. Early in-person voting is not legal. We've always had, by just default, the military and citizens out of the country who are registered to vote, they always have to send their ballots in prior to the election day because it's just got to get there by the mail. That's accepted. To do anything less with them would be depriving them of their right to vote. We're not going to do that. We never have. However, we have an election day, not election weeks, not election months. And to continue counting votes, mail-in votes after election day is over, that's like saying, okay, Trump is kicking our ass, so we're going to stop the count. And oh my God, Trump got 11 million more votes than he did the first time around. We weren't counting on that. So shit, we really got to create some new ballots here. Good thing we had 100 million of them printed. Oh, and another thing, Trump people. I know I'm wasting my time because he'll never hear this because the people I know who know him will never share it. There's plenty of video out there, live, being recorded by people on the Edison updates where they say, okay, we got new voting, so many more precincts in whatever state are now reporting President Trump, your total vote count would go down. Well, Biden's went up dramatically. That happened throughout, I think, every one of the battleground states. They were taking votes away from you. Literally, your vote counts were going down. That's on recorded. You could see that. You could still find that, I'm sure, online. Your vote count was going backwards. There's evidence right there that it was being manipulated, and that would have only been done. Only possible way to do that would be on counting the votes when you're scanning them in. That was the only way that could have been done. Why aren't you public with all this and just showing that everywhere on a regular basis to put the leftist Democrats on their heels? Make them defend their bullshit instead of you responding to theirs. There's no glory, there's no win in responding to the lies. They're just going to create more lies. You're not going to win. You're in hostile territories where, think about this. These grand jury members are so freaking stupid that they're going along with issuing indictments. You got to admit, got to be pretty stupid to go along with this, to issue these indictments. You got to be a Democrat. So this would be my suggestion to the Trump team, to follow these strategies. I know these strategies work because I've had my own battles with the establishment, with the Democrats. Oh, and I tell you, I know what you're going through. They hit you back hard when you stand in opposition to them, like they're doing to you. But the last thing you do is not to go after them. I went after the Democrats in the legal system who were coming after me. I made them fear me because I had evidence on them. Lots of it. And then once I went public with that evidence, guess what happened, you guys? They backed the hell off. They left me alone because they knew I could do a lot of harm to them. You're in that same position. You have evidence against our mutual enemies. You're not going public with it. You're not beating them up over the head with it. You're just not. I'm telling you from experience, when you do, it scares them because they know they cannot defend their bullshit. And you're not calling them out on it. As one man, I had to do that in multiple jurisdictions in 2 states on my own. I got it done. I know the strategies to get it done. And sitting back and taking it is not a winning strategy. Yeah, they come after me, and they come after me hard because I was bucking their system. It just made me go after them even harder. I lost a lot of attorneys. President Trump, if you ever hear this, I know you've had some attorney problems. So did I. I lost a lot of attorneys from threats and intimidation against those I was fighting against. Yeah. You know, the interesting thing? Well, all those attorneys were men. I fired every one of them. Then I started representing myself in court on issues and started winning. Then I had to take it up another level after they come after me again in another state over bullshit. So I hired a female attorney. She was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, this sounds interesting, but I'm kind of like not believing half of it until those people tried to intimidate her. Tracked her down at her house. Yeah, attorneys don't publish where they live or their phone numbers like this, and called and left a very threatening message on her answering machine. Like they'd done with all the other attorneys I had who folded up and quit. And she calls me, tells me about this, and I suppose you're going to quit now like everybody else because you scared the shit out of you. She said, no, I'm mad as hell. I know what's going on now, and I'm not going to put up with it. Good for her. So jointly, we went after certain law enforcement agencies to further prove what they were doing and who they were doing it for. And then I finally put it out all on a website and made them all aware of it. Yeah. I was doing my own counter investigation against them. Built a hell of a lot of evidence against all of them. They left me alone after that. President Trump, you have to use these same strategies. I know they work because I use them. Not going after your enemies only emboldens them. You have to start exposing them. And I know it costs a lot of money. Hell, that whole thing about bankrupted me. Took years off my life, 6 years of stress and hell, of having my home watched, being tailed at work. All kinds of nasty shit happened to me because I dared to stand up to evil. So I know what you're going through, but you got to hit them back and got to hit them hard. Now, you've got plenty of evidence to prove. I'd start at Georgia and hit them right there. Then I'd get the tapes of the Edison Bureau updates, on the crawl, where you show one where you had X amount of votes. And then later on, in that same precinct or the same nationwide, however you want to look at it, your votes went backwards. Now, your argument for, well, he lost because, he has all these mean tweets. I'll never have a reply to that. Here's one for you. Say, really? So you're saying I lost because people don't like my mean tweets? I wonder how that worked out, folks, because you need to say, President Trump, I got 11 million more votes the second time than I did the first time. That's never happened in the history of the country. You got more votes that night than anybody legitimately in the history of the country. So was it really your mean tweets that cost you the election? No. Because if that was true, your votes would have been less in 2020 than in 2016. They wouldn't have gone up 11 million. But see, you don't counter that narrative. You, I guess, assume that our people are smart enough to figure it out. No, they're not. I've heard that from Republicans my whole life. Well, John, they're smart enough. The people will figure it out. No, they won't. And they haven't. They never figured out the school thing until COVID a few years ago. Never did. I was on that like stink on you know what. And my ex had a bunch of kids. I'd sit down and talk to them. What did you learn in school today? Because shit, she never had that conversation. And they would start blah, 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 right? And I'm like, well, that's not exactly entirely true. Your teachers are promoting an agenda that they have, which doesn't involve the truth. Now, a few times she heard me having these discussions with the kids, and she just jumped my ass royal. I was trying to be a helpful parental figure to the kids and keep that brainwashing from sinking in. She didn't care. So now we're not together anymore, but now she knows that I was right. She argued with me for years. She said, the schools aren't brainwashing. They're not indoctrinating. That's bullshit, John. Really? I've been watching it for decades, warning about it for decades. Now she knows. And she should have known. And I'm not saying this to be egotistical or arrogant or anything. I'm just saying this is a fact. Little history with her. She has 2 degrees. I have 0. So she always hated it when I knew something that she didn't, which was actually a regular occurrence. She'd go, how the F do you know that? I have 2 degrees and you don't. I don't even know that. Your degrees don't mean shit. It's just a piece of paper. I says, not having a degree doesn't keep me from learning. In fact, it's an asset. people with degrees, the vast majority of you are dumbed down and indoctrinated. You don't know shit. A piece of paper, you might as well burn it. So she'd get mad at me. She says, "You're right, like 98% of the time. And I don't like it." So I'd ask her, I'd just say to her, "Well, if you want to be with a dumbass, there's no shortage of them out there. Go and get one." So eventually she did. Because she'd rather be never challenged intellectually, like most people. So I know I kind of go astray on some of the things, but I'm trying to tie this all together. Our people aren't as sharp as what their elected officials think. Just look at who they vote for. They keep voting for the same losers time and time again, decade in and decade out. You got people voting for AOC multiple times, that whole squad. How smart are you to do that? You're not. How smart are people to continue to vote for the guy who's been representing us in the 6th district, Sam Graves? He's a rhino. For 22 years, 11 election cycles, they have voted him in. He does nothing, literally nothing. So quit assigning abilities to our people that they don't have. President Trump and your team, you need to just understand this. Most of our people, they have no clue. They might as well be wearing the dunce hat in the corner. They don't know what's going on. You have to expose it to them. When you do, then they're going to start, "Oh, okay, now we're mad." Right now, they don't see the evidence. They don't take the time to look at the evidence like I do, because this is what I've always done. So they go, "Well, I don't know. What are we going to do? I just told you what to do." Now, I want you to win re-election. I think we all want Donald Trump to win re-election. However, does anybody really think that the Democrat Party is going to allow President Trump anywhere near that White House again? And it's just not the Democrat Party. It's the World Economic Forum. It's the United Nations. It's the WHO. It's the IPCC people. It's all of them combined. China. None of those entities want President Trump to be president again. The Biden administration has taken major leaps, major strides towards becoming communist in its country. Do you think for 1 second that all those entities are willing to give that up? No, they're not. They're not ever going to allow Donald Trump to be president again. Our people believe, well, he'll win in the courts. And you know what? All of this was fraud on the part of these investigators who brought these indictments to begin with. So do you really think it's going to change in a courtroom? No. I'd even be surprised if any of this is thrown out in pre-trial motions. We have got so many, not only do we have too many Democrat DAs and prosecutors and the like, but the Republican appointed ones, they're cowards. I'll call it the way I see it. They're cowards. Why aren't they standing up and saying, whoa, what this Dunn Smith just did is illegal? It has no standing in law, zero. There's nothing in the U.S. codes that allows him to do this. Where are they at? Where are our prosecutors, our federal prosecutors, where are they at? Silence. They're cowards. They're not willing to stand up and say, stop this bullshit. The only one right now is President Trump doing it, but he's not. He's missing some key things, like I said. And he needs to get out there about the one-day election. He needs to beat him up about what happened in Georgia. Needs to explain how he loses a 700,000 vote lead in a matter of hours to Biden. It's just people. I know you don't follow this, you don't understand, you don't know, and you probably don't even care. Let's say, for example, I'll keep it simple. Let's say in any given state, doesn't matter which one, doesn't even matter which candidates. Let's say Republican in the state is getting 52% of the votes so far throughout the entire state. And the Democrats getting 48%. Now then, and let's say, okay, so the Republicans winning, and you got, let's say, 80% of the precincts in. And then all of a sudden, the Democrats starts getting 80% of the vote. The Republican gets 20. When the whole night through, it's been about the same demographics split, the same vote ratios. But the Democrats losing. Well, you can't have that. This is what happened on election night. All of a sudden, the averages where they were running all night, in which was a predictable outcome based on decades of research and experience in given states, was tossed out the window. Y'all don't know that. And of course, you're not going to look it up. And you won't look it up now that I've told you. But the Trump team, you haven't shared this information. Our people don't know, and they're not going to know until you explain it to them. Yes, you have to do this. See, with the Democrats, they're programmed, they're indoctrinated, they're dumbed down. They don't investigate anything because they, honest to God, believe everything their lords and masters in the mainstream media and social media tells them. Don't even bother to try to argue with the Democrat. They'll say, well, show me the evidence. And then you show them the evidence. They go, wow, that's not a credible source. You say, why isn't it? Well, because only their stuff is credible sources. So just give it up. They're all the same. Literally, you could talk to 1,000 of them, and I've talked to way over 1,000. It's all the same script they play from. Cite your sources. No, cite yours. No. You cite yours, then you cite yours and go, well, those aren't credible sources. There's no winning with them. It's not possible. Biden still has 40% approval rating. 40% of his party still supports him. Wow. 40% approval rating. The guy shouldn't even have an approval rating. The guy shouldn't even be in office. Also, another thing, President Trump, I would really suggest, it's called part of fighting back, is now we have all this overwhelming evidence. We got 175 suspicious activity reports on the Bidens. 175. Those are the ones we know about. We got Devin Archer testifying. We've got bank transfers to the Biden's accounts, multiple accounts, including his children and grandchildren. I didn't know his grandchildren were running international businesses, but apparently they are because they're getting paid big money, right? Wink, wink. And so why aren't we, President Trump, why don't you suggest that Joe Biden be arrested for treason? We don't need to have a special counsel for that. It's already been proven. Every minute that man sits in the White House, he is putting the entire country, and in fact, the entire world, in peril. Every second. His entire administration is unlawful. So, President Trump, you need to start hitting back on this. Why hasn't Joe Biden been arrested for treason? And him and his secretaries, all of them, Kamala, all of his cabinet, why are they not down in Gitmo right now? Have your legal team spell it out. Keep it in simple terms for the average American, because you'll lose them. If you get too complicated, they'll just tune out. It's sad to say, But that's just how it works. I am constantly told, John, you got to just keep it simple. You got to dumb it down, because I can get into the stats and all kinds of interesting things because to prove the point. But I lose the audience. I'm getting told this by radio people all the time, because I've met a lot lately who do radio shows, podcasts. Keep it simple, stupid. The KISS theory. It's very true. More true now than it ever has been. So, yes, as we can get technical and in the weeds, we can do that, but you're going to lose your audience, the people who need to hear these things. So keep it simple in terms that they can understand. And people watching this, I'm not saying this to be mean. You know I'm right. You absolutely know that I'm right. And everybody in this business does their best to keep it dumbed down for the listeners. It's just an honest fact. So this would be my recommendation. Keep it simple for the people. Explain to them why it's treason, what we already have in place to prove the treason, and have him arrested. And him and his entire cabinet should be taken down to Guantanamo military prison and have a military code of justice trial. That'd be the appropriate way to try all of them for treason. Okay. You all aren't saying that. Now, let them come after you, Mr. President, and say, well, you're interfering in an election. Because that's exactly what they'll say. That's election interference. You go, really? And what's this? And then, of course, they'll say, well, this is legitimate. No, it's not. What we have on Biden calling for his arrest, that's real. We have the goods on that one. No special counsel bullshit needed. You think Garland would ever call for a special counsel? And if he did, it'd be already, the outcome would already be predetermined. So it'd be just fraud anyway. So this is what fighting back looks like. We have to bring the public along with this. We have to expose it all. We have to start going after those who did commit crimes in the 2020 election. Every state that held their federal elections in violation of federal election law, you need to be filing lawsuits on them. Right now, you need to be going after the Secretary of State's office, state of Georgia, right now, for knowingly allowing illegal votes to be counted, which ultimately led to Joe Biden taking Georgia. So these are some suggestions based on a shit ton of experience on my part. Y'all, you got to fight back against Satan. You can punch him, you can knock him down, you can bloody him up. And I'll tell you this, from firsthand experience, evil will respect you a whole hell of a lot more for fighting back than for just taking it. He does not respect cowards. Trust me on that. He doesn't respect cowards. We cannot defeat him in the end. We all know this. But there's nothing that I've ever read or been told or that my spiritual being feels. Nothing tells me that we're supposed to take it until Jesus returns. We don't know when he gets back. And would he really come back to save our ass if we're not doing anything on our own to help ourselves? I'm kind of thinking he'd just be like, why should I go down there and help them? My people aren't fighting for me. It's a legitimate question. Of course, in our society, we have this thing of, no accountability, no responsibility. Yeah. And ignorance is bliss. No, ignorance has never been bliss. Your ignorance is going to get us all into communism. Yeah. So I think I've given you all plenty to think about. Send some replies. I'd appreciate it. Let's have some debate. I need you all to explain why you would disagree with anything that I've just said. I want to hear your excuses why we should continue doing nothing. why we should continue to be quiet in the face of all of this evil that is being done in this country and the attacks against our president. You need to explain to yourselves, your family, why you're doing nothing. And we continue to do what we're doing, we will become communist. It's going to be a bitch. Then you're going to have to explain to your children or grandchildren when they ask you, what happened? How come they're not free to worship or free to go to the store, or they got to wait in bread lines and blah, blah, blah. When they heard things used to be different, they're going to ask you, why didn't you do anything to stop it? What are you going to say? Well, there was nothing I can do. You can address your goddamn grievances against this country, against our government, as is your right to do. And then as your right to do, you can either alter or abolish this government. We're too far along to alter it. Abolish it. By that, I mean fire everybody in elective office. Every federal judge that has been appointed by both parties, gone. All of you, gone. And we hold special elections and elect new people who will, guess what? They'll do what we tell them to do at that point in time, because we stood up and we exercised our authority over their predecessors. We can do that. We have that authority in this country to do that. And it would be nice if President Trump and his team would say the same thing. That is not causing an insurrection. We're the boss. Can a boss be insubordinate against an employee? No. Can we, the people who are the boss of our government, can we be insubordinate, which is another word for insurrectionists, against our employees? No, we can't be. Can we hold them accountable? Yes. We're the boss, they're not. So right now, our government is in insurrection, insubordinate to the people, and in violation of their constitutional oaths and duties. They are our employees. You guys need to understand that. They work for us. They're insubordinate insurrectionists towards us right now, and have been since Biden was put in that office. The deep state's been after it even longer. They've been corrupt as hell for 20 damn years. I found that out the hard way. I documented it. So anyway, folks, share this, please. If you're offended by what I said to you, good. Maybe you'll feel a little guilty or guilty enough to start taking ownership of yourselves and our government. It's our government. And you're letting it be taken away from you. And all you say is, there's nothing that I can do. That's music to the ears of Satan and his demons on the left. You keep this up, you're going to let this country be taken over by godless heathens. You think that's going to make God proud? You think that's going to encourage God to come down and save our ass? I think it would do just the opposite. You might be thinking, you know what? You guys have all this power, and your form of government, founded in Christian beliefs, you didn't do anything with that power. You let Satan take you. Yeah. Be our fault. I hope this resonates with some people and this gets shared. Whether you like it or not, share it. Because you don't know what your fellow man thinks about this stuff, because you all don't talk to each other about it. We don't talk about politics and religion in our country. We're told you can't. Like I've said before, politics and religion are the two most important forces on this planet that affects every one of you every day, whether you participate in it or not. It affected Jesus in his time. and it affects us now. Politics and religion have always been tied at the hip. I'm only doing this because I care about all of you and I care about this country. And I have certain experiences and skills that I acquired over the decades battling these people that I need to share. Y'all have a good night.